Hi, listeners. This is a quick thank you for listening and for your ongoing support. If you're enjoying the program, please consider clicking the follow or subscribe button if you haven't done so already. It really helps us out. There's no better way to support us than doing that or sharing the show with a friend, colleague, family member, or any new or expecting parent in your life. It's totally appreciated. On with the show. Hi, I'm Sarah Trott, and welcome to the Fourth Trimester Podcast. I'm a new mama, and this podcast is all about postpartum care for the first few months following birth, the time period also known as the fourth trimester. My postpartum doula, Esther Gallagher, is my co-host. She's a mother, grandmother, perinatal educator, birth and postpartum care provider. Fourth trimester care, our topic, is about the practical, emotional, and social support parents and baby require. And importantly, it helps set the tone for the continuing journey of parenting. Hi, this is Sarah Trott, and welcome back to the Fourth Trimester Podcast. We have an awesome topic today. We're talking about toddler sleep solutions, and we have a PhD sleep consultant on the program to answer the top 10 toddler sleep questions and discuss real solutions that are safe and developmentally appropriate for your child, and solutions that also really work and give you and your family the rest that you need. And of course, we all know how important sleep is for our mental and physical wellness. And so we're diving into the topic with someone who has dedicated her life's work to family sleep solutions. And before we go on any further, I want to remind you we have a website, which is fourthtrimesterpodcast.com, and you can go there to find all the links and resources and discount codes and things that we mentioned on our program. So go there. Also subscribe to our newsletter so you can have all of that delivered directly to your inbox. And also please hit subscribe and follow wherever you listen. And all of that really helps us do the work that we do and helps out the program. So we really appreciate it. So let's dive in. I'm going to introduce Dr. Angelique Millette, our guest. She is a returning guest with prior episodes, including one of our top episodes dedicated to sleep training. Another one on transitioning your baby to their own room, which is so helpful. And it was a conversation we had around the time I was going through that personally with my little one. So thank you, Angelique. And then most recently, we covered the top 10 baby sleep questions. So today, as I said, we're focusing on toddler. So that next phase, because it is different. And we encourage anyone who's listening to go back and listen to those prior episodes if those are relevant for where you're at. And again, we'll add the links to those prior episodes to the show notes so we can make them really easy for you to find. And for those of you who haven't been introduced yet to Angelique, Angelique is such a wealth of experience in baby sleep. She has spent the last 25 years dedicated to this topic. She's a mom. She's also a parent-child coach, and she's a pediatric sleep consultant. She has her PhD, and she's been doing family sleep research for years. So at this point, she's worked with over 15,000 families, including my own, for which I'm incredibly grateful. And I think about this topic, and when sleep doesn't go well, pretty much nothing else does. So I'm super excited to help surface some practical information about improving family sleep and really to help all of our listeners. So welcome back, Angelique. Great to see you.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for the generous introduction. It's so good to be back talking about this, such an important topic for families. And something I'm just passionate about. So thanks for having me back for toddler child sleep.
Yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a while. It's top of mind for me because I have a little one in this phase, of course, quite practically speaking. And also just so many of our listeners have multiples at home, and there's that challenge of going through this phase, but then also like juggling multiple kids in different phases of sleep. And so I know you get asked these top questions all the time. I think it's fantastic that we're going to go through some of these questions that your consulting clients ask you. And so we came up with this list together. Anything that you want to say, like as a bit of an intro at the top before we dive into the top questions?
Listeners, the toddler child sleep topic is vast. Trying to get it down to just 10 of the top ones for today's podcast interview was not easy to do. The list is just so long. And toddler child sleep is so near and dear to my heart It's a little different than baby sleep, listeners, because with toddler child sleep, parents tend to have lost hope that the sleep issue can be fixed. So we are going to deep dive into the toddler method that I developed over 20 years ago. That is not about locking your child in a room to teach them to sleep. That doesn't help toddlers and kids sleep at all. So I'm so excited to share with you a completely different paradigm, a different method that really supports your parenting, responsive parenting, listening to your child, but also setting limits. We call it firm and loving parenting is how I think of it. And that's what this sleep method is going to teach you today.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of the things that I appreciated about you so much is that you're not a cry it out method person. That just would never have worked for me or my family because it's just heartbreaking, the idea of it. And we've covered that topic a bunch on the sleep training episode. So if anyone's interested, go back and listen to that one, like I said. But yeah, so let's go. Let's talk about it. So just to set the scene, like first question, how much do toddlers aged around 2 to 4 really need for sleep?
So the answer is multi-part. If they are napping, their sleep needs are going to be a little bit less at night. So a toddler who's napping might nap anywhere from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours. I try to limit naps 2.5, 3 hours max. It does influence how much sleep they'll get at night if they're having a long nap past 2.5, 3 hours. The nighttime sleep, if they are napping, is somewhere in the range of anywhere from 10 to 11 hours. We've got outliers that might sleep 9.5 hours at night. Once they drop the nap, they consolidate all their sleep to the night. And then their total sleep is somewhere around 11 to 12 hours at night. And then that number will come down to, say, 10.5 hours as they approach, say, age 3 to 4 to 5. And it's variable. Watch your child's total sleep numbers, but watch their cues for sleep deprivation or not getting enough sleep. Toddlers that are really hyper, that could actually be a sign that they're not getting enough sleep. In particular, if they're really hyper before bedtime and they're not napping, it may be a sign that they're not getting enough sleep and that you're missing their sleep window, that they're overtired. So your toddler, young child, has presenting behaviors when they're not getting enough sleep. And you want to pay attention to those. They are cranky, not listening, refusing to brush teeth, they're refusing to participate getting dressed at bedtime in their jammies, or they're hyper and cute and entertaining and super fun. And you're like, this might not be a good thing. You want to pay attention to those behaviors. So I look at both the behavior and the total sleep time for naps and for nights to get a really good feedback on what that unique individual child needs in terms of their sleep.
Yeah, my daughter, she just will always nap at school around the other kids when they're all napping and then not nap at home. By the way, kids 2 to 4, we're talking about one nap at this point, right? Like this is not like baby napping is multiple naps situation. At this point, we're talking about one nap, usually like right after lunchtime, like maybe 1 o'clock or so, I think is pretty typical.
The nap does begin to influence their bedtime readiness. So if you're seeing bedtimes migrate to, say, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., pay attention to the nap. It may be time to drop the nap.
Yes. So, okay, we started to talk about this one. The official question is, what's a typical toddler sleep schedule and when do they drop naps?
Oh, gosh. So we love napping toddlers because they're rested and cheerful. However, somewhere between age 3 to 5, they're going to drop the nap. For most of them, it's age 3 to 4. There's a lot of great science on this topic. In particular, looking at bedtime resistance with toddlers, which basically means they don't want to go to sleep at bedtime. They resist, they stall, they come up with excuses. If you're seeing a lot of that for your 3-4-year-old that's still napping, it's typically a sign that they're ready to shorten the nap or drop the nap. So that's going to be like your positive feedback that it's time to get them down to one nap a day. But this is happening across age 3 to 4. We still have some 5-year-olds that are napping. Pay attention to the bedtimes. They need up to 6 hours of awake time from the end of the nap until their body releases sleepy time hormones, that tryptophan and serotonin and melatonin. And so if they were at school and the nap ended at 3, but you're watching the clock and you wanted to fall asleep at 8 o'clock, and you got that 4-year-old that's still napping until 3 o'clock at school, they're just going to spend a whole hour stalling, messing around, frequent requests, potty, pee, poo, snack, scared, more hugs. And you're like, what's going on here? And it's because their body's not getting the benefit of those sleepy time hormones until they've been awake those full 6 hours. And sometimes it's even 6.5 to 7 hours.
That explains so much, Angelique.
I know.
Yeah. Because they want the nap. They're so tired running around at school and playing, and it's such a wonderful thing. So they're all exhausted. And I think when they see everyone else napping, they just want to do it, and they turn the lights out, and it's cozy, and they have their little sleeping bag. And I'm all for it. But yeah, that's really insightful, though, because when you do the math and it's 6 hours on from that wake up time, and you're like, oh, well, that's why you're still awake.
That's right. And you can't fudge those numbers. They're just not getting the benefit of that sleepy time cocktail until they've been awake 6, pushing 7 hours. So this is really those 3, 4, 5-year-olds that are still napping. Parents, ask yourselves, what time the nap in? What time are we trying to get them to sleep? Is that even reasonable? Have they been awake enough time?
Yeah. So maybe a shorter nap, go from 1 to 2. And then 8 o'clock is totally reasonable.
That's it, Sarah. So you could shorten the nap up around 45 minutes to an hour, 15 minutes. There tends to be a transition in their sleep, so they can be woken up. And then sometimes that's just enough. They get like a 45-minute cat nap in the middle of the day. They get a little energy, and they're still ready to go to bed around 8 o'clock or so.
Yeah, they totally need it too. Like I can tell the difference between having had a little nap and not, and they're just happier and just more themselves. And I wish, there was a way to like magically manage the amount of time that they're napping.
There's an interesting point here, because for a lot of the preschool and daycare programs, they're mandated to offer a nap.
Mm-hmm.
The mandates are in place because that's a necessary time for those employees to take a break in the middle of the workday.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And the kids do need it for sure. They do. It's a good thing.
But some of them are aging out of that nap. And so that starts to be a little bit of an issue. So I do work with families that have 3 and 4-year-olds that are ready to age out of the nap. They don't need it. It's pushing bedtimes to now 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. They're napping at school. It's not really helping the family's sleep routines at night. So there, as an aside here, you're that family, if you have that 3 to 4-year-old that's ready to drop the nap, they're still taking a nap at their preschool daycare program, it may require a conversation with a teacher or program director about a quiet room for your child, so that they get a little downtime or quiet time. They don't actually sleep. And now their sleep clock is set up for that earlier bedtime, 7, 8 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. And my kiddo and others I know, sometimes they'll just sit and read. Like they're already self-regulating. They already are like awake and just ready to do something quietly. And I love my school. It's wonderful. Just to put it out there.
They're great. And those teachers need a break during the day. They're working hard.
It is hard. It is hard. I challenge anyone to go and volunteer for a day at a preschool.
Exactly.
It's not for the faint of heart. Okay, so I want to ask our next question, which is about sleep training, because, we've covered sleep training for babies, for little ones, which we said appropriate time. You don't really start until about 6 months of age or so. But now we're talking about a toddler. So if you've got a little kiddo who's 2 or 3, are there sleep training methods that work? Does sleep training work for that age?
I love this question so much because it's like a mystery, right? So many parents are like, I'm talking with parents all the time. They're saying, like, we've tried sleep training. It made the sleep issue worse with our toddler. And here's the deal. Starting somewhere around 10 months of age and on, we'll say 10 to 18 months of age, they are aging out of the sleep training. Let's just say like an interval method, checking method that works really well. We use those methods with babies, but they age out of it because of object permanence, which is they're developing some separation anxiety, separating at sleep time, all normal good stuff, and those big toddler emotions that start to come online. And sleep is about separating for kiddos. It's precisely what's going on. So they really age out of an interval method, parent checking method between 10 to 18 months of age. That's why I use a toolbox of methods for the Millette method, because it just can't be one size fits all. Sleep is just much more dynamic than that. And we shift them out of an interval parent checking method. I developed a 2-phase approach that comes straight out of my work doing play therapy with kiddos. Kids learn through play, they learn through communication. So I teach parents the principles of play therapy with a high focus on sleep. So the scripts and the play are about sleep, and we do it through playtime activities, and separation. but we do it in kid language, in kid play. And we have parents spend about a week doing that for about 15 minutes every day, give or take.
So can you give an example of that? What does that look like or sound like?
Oh yeah, this is just going to be like, aha, because parents are doing some of this already. The game of peekaboo, hide and seek. Peekaboo and hide and seek. That game is symbolic for children. It's cute when they do it, but kids are practicing separating and reuniting. Separating, reuniting, because that's what that secure attachment, basis for secure attachment. It is, I'm going to separate from you. I'm going to come back to you. You come back. That need is met. So kids play peekaboo and hide and seek. And then I have parents specifically play it in the child's room where they're going to sleep. This is great for co-sleeping toddlers, room sharing toddlers, a toddler that's still potentially nursing, feeding at night, and parents are ready to wean. Or a parent maybe is sleeping in the child's room in their little tiny bed snuggled with them and not getting great sleep. It's the best we can do right now. This is a great way to get that started. So you're going to play hide and seek, peekaboo in your child's room with them. I just have parents put a blanket over their head, say the child's name, and do a little bit of hiding and reuniting in the child's room as a means to prepare that child for the separation that's going to take place once we start phase 2, the method.
And it's important it's in their room, right?
Wherever the child's going to sleep at night, which for a lot of parents, it's the child's room. That's where they want to do this. So you want to get them in the room practicing separation. Here's another thing that we'll do in phase 1. We put their dolls or stuffed animals or even their favorite toy. I've got kiddos right now that got one little one that loves soccer balls. So we're putting soccer balls to sleep.
Oh, cute.
It could be really whatever that your child's bonded to, but you're putting it to sleep. Here's the deal. Your child believes their objects are real until they're 5 or 6. They project themselves onto those objects as a means to understand themselves, their experiences, their environment, their emotions. It's this rich learning experience. So when a child plays, they're making meaning. It's just such a wonderful thing. It's why I love the play therapy principles so much. So put stuffed animal to sleep in your child's bed. Tell the story about that change. And I'll give parents real specific script and language that's real child-centered to help the child start to integrate saying bye-bye to their parents at night, not seeing them until the sun wakes up. So that we're really introducing those concepts of separation and change in that script, in the play that the child does long before we even start the sleep method. Sarah, 50%, 50% of the kids will start sleeping differently from doing this phase 1.
Wow. And you said it's only about a week that you do this?
It's about a week that we do this.
Those are such incredible positive results. And what about the whole routine? Are you just like practicing like with the soccer ball, what all the steps are before bed? I remember we did something really cool in our transitioning to sleep in their own room episode. You gave me this great tip on creating almost like a comic book set of drawings where you draw and we're like, okay, well, this is where you sleep now. This is where you're going to sleep. This is what it's going to feel like and look like and tell a story. And that was golden. It worked so well.
We'll do this for toddlers. I also do this with older kiddos because I'm working with kids up until age 14. You can't believe how many 7 to 12-year-olds that are co-sleeping, bed sharing for all kinds of reasons. If that's you as a parent, then we focus in on doing a little bit of art therapy with those kids, writing a sleep book. And those kids are a real participant in their sleep changes, a little different than a toddler. Think of it as a prep phase. We do better when we know something's coming up and we can adjust to it before it happens. And frankly, kids are the same way. They really start to benefit from integrating these concepts of separation that are going to come up with the sleep changes well before they start those sleep changes. Then we reduce the screaming, the throwing up, the tantrums that really break down parents' confidence when they start a sleep method and frankly just wear them out. By doing these little activities every day with them, prepares your child for the sleep changes. And they'll say things, I don't like this game. I don't like putting Bear to sleep. Or they'll say, I don't want you to sleep in your bed at night. I want you in my bed. That's why I ask parents to do this, because that means your child is working through their worries and fears about the sleep change long before you start it. And I'll have parents respond to their child, oh, thank you for letting me know that's how you feel. I'm going to hold that in my heart right here. That's important. Thank you. I'll be here with you as you make that change. I'll be here with you. And what that means is I respect and acknowledge your emotions, your worries, what you're feeling, and I'll be here as a resource to help you. There's some limit setting in there too. I'll be here with you as we make that change. So it's a very effective tool for responsive parenting while also setting limits and frankly, still guiding our child along the path of change, which is, like I say to parents every day, it's inevitable. It's just part of being a human. Change happens.
It's so brilliant. I love that tender moment right before bed when you have the opportunity when things are quiet. I always feel really connected. We always talk about our day and then we say some words and some affirmations and things. I like taking advantage of that time because I think it's a moment of connectedness as part of the routine. For what it's worth, I think there's just some really awesome opportunities to say things that kids need to hear. I am so proud of you and you are so important. Whatever is happening in your life at that time that you want to reinforce, it's such a great opportunity to do it.
Pillow talk.
Yeah, that's it.
They love it. And sometimes that's our first homework assignment because kids will try to find parents in the middle of the night for that bonding. So we say, hey, how about 10 minutes at bedtime of pillow talk and listening to your child and just giving them some tender love and sweetness. Our most expensive gift to give our kids is that one-on-one time.
Yeah, that's it. Even 15 minutes a day of one-on-one time when you have multiple kids. Sounds like it's not much, but sometimes you really have to think about where to build that into your schedule and just stop everything. Stop everything and focus. That's it.
Some parents will put it on their calendar just so they get a little notification reminding them because it's sometimes easy to miss it or skip it. Life happens. But it is one of those things that you're frankly filling up your child's love cup that helps them as they separate from you at sleep time. It seems counterintuitive, but by filling up that love cup, then they have that tolerance and resiliency to separate from you and go to sleep. For a lot of parents, that's their goal, is that they can work into a schedule where there's some predictability at bedtime and their child doesn't need them to lay with them for hours to get them to sleep, and more the same in the middle of the night.
Yeah, or like demand that attention in other ways, like waking up or whatever else it is during the day.
Exactly right. So I love that. The love cup time, pillow talk time, 5, 10, 15 minutes, even with 18-month-olds, 16-month-olds, just that extra holding and talking to them. They understand a lot of language and it really does help them settle and separate.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so sleep training, we talked about that. Sleep training is really different for babies and for toddlers. Don't use those old methods for a toddler.
So that first phase, we want to prep them. We give them a full week. It's like their body integrates it. And then phase 2 is the chair mattress method. It is a parent presence fading method. So different from like interval method, checking method. With this, you actually give them what they want, which is you in their room. And then over the course of a week to 10 nights, you move further away until eventually at the doorway, hallway, and then you're back in your room. And for some of those little ones, we'll use something like a baby gate or door monkey, especially if they haven't organized impulse control yet. If you've got a 2 to 3-year-old that's climbed out of the crib, if you're that parent, it's not safe for them to be in the crib, but they don't have impulse control yet. Or impulse control means you can say to a 3-year-old, if you stay in your bed when you wake up in the morning, we'll play a game together. And they can stay in the bed and they want to play that game with you. But your 2-year-old doesn't make that leap yet. So for some of those little ones that are out of the crib and you want to keep them in their room at night, then we use something like a door monkey or baby gate. But I don't start off with using that. And the reason is that it can actually lead to a lot of anxiety and screaming at sleep time if I just start out the gate with that. I start with those play activities first and the chair mattress method second. And then I introduce a baby gate or door monkey as we're wrapping up just to bring it all together. And then it's a really effective tool.
So you're essentially staying close, providing that physical reassurance as they fall asleep. So you're there. So are they seeing you there when they close their eyes?
That's it. It could be as close as a bed next to the child's bed. And then as, after night 1 or 2, you're going to move your bed a little further away from their bed and then continue to move further away. Here's a really good hint. Don't move your bed right before the lights go out. Don't move your bed in your child's room because that'll freak them out. They're pretty tired right at bedtime. They don't want to see you move further away. You want to move your bed in their room 1 to 2 hours before bedtime and enlist their help so they feel in control of you moving further away. It's a nice way to shift the dynamic of you doing it to them. Instead, say, I need your help to move this bed a little further away. I'm still close by, but I'm not right next to you. Can you help me? You're a very good helper and I need your help. They're going to help. And say, can I borrow a stuffed animal? Just like you, I like to cuddle a stuffy at night. And ever the sweethearts, they're going to procure one and give it to you. Thank you. This bear is very important. I'm going to put it right in my bed, close to your bed here. This is my little bear to snuggle. You want, like I said, you want to do that 1 or 2 hours before bedtime so they can adjust to you moving further away before the lights go out.
Yep. Okay. So there's knowing that's the process, right? Because you've talked it through ahead of time. They know that you'll start out close and eventually they'll be on their own in their bed. So there's nothing sneaky happening.
It's a really good point, Sarah. Sneaking out of the room can actually lead to worsening sleep issues and anxiety.
Right. Like you were here and now you're gone.
That's right. So think of this as fading away rather than just walking out or sneaking away. That you're fading and you're moving further away every night or 2 nights.
Yeah. And they know it's going to happen and you've talked about it. So it's not a surprise. They might not like it, but
you're going to keep doing those little phase 1 activities like the hide and seek, like putting their stuffies to sleep. You continue to do that as you're doing the chair mattress method. As you're doing phase 2, moving further away, keep doing those little activities with them as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Is there another phase?
Yes. So phase 3 could be using the method for naps. So if you're in a spot where you have to do a lot of holding for naps, nursing for naps, a lot of car rides for naps, and you want to shift that around, then you can use the same 2-phase approach for naps. So that would be a phase 3. And I don't work on naps and nights at the same time. I get about a week of progress at the nights, and then we start working on the naps.
And what are you saying about phase 3 for naps?
If you're holding your toddler for naps, you have to stroller or drive them for naps, then this would be doing this method so that they can sleep independently for naps and you can move out of their room. So again, it's the same fading program for naps. You get a nap yourself. So again, you have a little bed, you do the pre-nap routine, they go into their crib or bed, and then you just lay on your bed, pretend to sleep. And then every day or 2 days, as you're working on this method for naps, move a little further away, a little further away, a little further away. And after about a week, you're out in the hallway and it's done.
Yeah. My 23andMe said that I'm more likely a person to enjoy and have naps than other people. And I had no idea that was genetic, but apparently there are markers for that. Maybe there are some kiddos who want to nap more than others.
Wow. I'll have to look into that. That is so interesting. Wow.
I'm not endorsing that company in particular. I just thought it was interesting.
That is really interesting. I'm going to have to do a little bit of internet research on that one. That's very interesting. I suppose there was a time when we all napped because we didn't sleep as much at night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes a nap is fantastic as an adult. Okay, but I would say that, wouldn't I? To my report.
Yes, you are a napper.
Totally.
Strong napping genes.
You got it. Okay, so let's ask this next question, which is, what can be helpful for toddlers in terms of peaceful evening routine?
Well, let me share some science with listeners today because I love bringing all the science to this work. Did you know there's a really good study that came out showing that screen exposure, as if we need to add more things to our plate, screen exposure for toddlers reduces melatonin by up to 80%.
What?
In the hours before bedtime. I know.
How many? You said 3 hours or just any number?
In the hours before bedtime. I say to parents in the 2 hours before bedtime, try to be sure your toddler's not on screens. Up to 80% reduction in melatonin release for toddlers on screens before bedtime. It makes sense.
Yeah. Is it just toddlers or is it all humans of all ages?
This study only looked at kids under 5. In terms of screen exposure, I've heard it go both ways for adults. And I think more to do with content than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Their minds are just worrying. So like after dinner, no screens, right? That's a simple way to think about it.
It's exactly right, Sarah. I ask the families I'm working with, instead of screens, try to do a little family walk. If you've got a little yard, go outside. If it's wintertime, pull together some puzzles or some board game. Or if you've got a toddler, maybe it's just drawing together or coloring together. Something that's not screen-based, loud toy-based, not activity-based, but it's relaxing, meditative. It slows them down. It slows you down. And then watch your interactions with your toddler. For a lot of parents, they miss their toddlers. They haven't seen them all day. They want to wrestle. They want to play monsters. They want to naked baby time. All the fun things I hear parents say in the consults I do with them. And that may not particularly help a child, especially if they have a hard time self-regulating, which basically means slowing down and settling and getting ready for sleep time. So I'd say the 2 hours before bedtime are a time to think about slow down time. I'll even ask some families turn off the house lights because the artificial light can influence circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm meaning your child wanting to go to sleep at bedtime. And in the wintertime when it's dark at 5 or 6 and we've got a lot of lights on, that may make it more difficult for a child to go to sleep. So those are some things to think about. A really important expression is that your child's bedtime starts at their morning wake up. That essentially what happens from the morning and through the day is going to influence their ability to settle and go to sleep at bedtime. A couple of the key things that I see are the naps. If they're still napping and the nap is impacting their ability to fall asleep at a reasonable time, we want to shorten the nap or drop the nap altogether. Their morning wake up time. We want to figure out where that sweet spot is for the morning wake up time because sometimes they're overtired at bedtime or undertired because they were up really early or they slept in. I know it seems silly that a toddler would sleep in, but I meet them all the time. And then we want to think about what they're doing during the day. It turns out that kids need a lot of physical activity.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's why I liked what you said about having a walk after dinner. Because I feel like right after dinner, blood sugar goes up. They will request things like dance party. Let's have a little dance party. So we'll turn on some ABBA and move our bodies a little bit, 10, 15 minutes, not major, and then get it out of their system. And that's fine.
That is absolutely fine. I think what you want to avoid is anything that's going to give your child a second wind. And then other things would be screen time that's scary. We already talked about screen time. Shows that are scary. I frankly think that if parents can cut out the screen time after dinner time, I think it's a really good thing for all kids until they get to be tweens or teenagers. But for most kids, they really need a couple hours in the evening to just let their brains settle and get ready for sleep.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Hi, listeners. I have some exciting news to share with you today. We've partnered with Every Mother, your go-to destination for evidence-based exercise therapy regimens. Whether you're dealing with diastasis recti, preparing for birth, or navigating postpartum recovery, Every Mother has your back. With personalized daily routines tailored to your core and pelvic floor needs, they're here to support you every step of the way. Say hello to a stronger, healthier you with Every Mother. Visit their website today and use code Fourth Trimester 10 for 10% off your personalized regimen. That's fourth spelled out, FOURTH, trimester 10 for 10% off, because every mother deserves the very best. Perfect. Okay. So when should my baby or toddler move into their own room, and how do we prepare for that?
So this is a point of personal preference, but for most families, that move happens somewhere between 6 months to 18 months of age. The American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending room sharing for up to the first year. And then there was a counter study done by Focus, I think it's Focus, and they found that families' sleep was more disturbed when they room shared from 6 months to 12 months. So I think this is like individual family preference. If you are room sharing with a baby or toddler, they're much more aware of your presence in the room starting at 6 months and on, even as early as 4 months and on.
Oh, so the adults are waking the baby up.
And the baby and toddlers waking the adults up too. They see them there. They hear them get up to use the potty at night or snore or pull the blankets up. They think that's a bid for play and for interaction. So sometimes for a family, they don't have a lot of options. They have a one-room apartment or something. And so we keep the baby or toddler with the parents, but we try to separate them up and put even a screen, something that separates that baby or toddler from the parent sleep space. Generally speaking, that's between 6 to 18 months of age that we see most families make that transition out of, say, room sharing or bed sharing. if they are bed sharing. And listeners, I do work with many families around the US and the world that bed share. And it's not out of reaction. They choose to bed share. It's their preferred way for the family to get their sleep needs met. Then they want to find a really responsive way to move their toddler or baby out of bed sharing. And so that method that I was just describing is a great method for doing that.
Ooh, and we have a great resource, which we'll link to in the show notes. That is a PDF that you gave us in a prior episode about if you are a bed sharing family, safe ways to do it.
Yes. Thanks for reminding me about that. Listeners, it's a really great resource. And so take a look at that if you are choosing to bed share.
Yes. Okay. And if you want to sleep, if you want to bed share or room share with your child beyond that 6 to 18 months, like there's no judgment here, right? This is personal family choice.
There is none at all. And like I said, outside of the US, culturally, a lot of families are room sharing and bed sharing. Culturally, they are. And there's just space limitations for a lot of families. They only have a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom home, and they don't have a lot of extra space to move a child to their own room. So this is personal preference for families. And part of the answer to that question is that for those families, they may be moving a child out when the child's 3 to 5 years of age.
Yeah. So perfectly typical. Okay. So we talk about when and how to prepare. Well, we have a whole episode about how to prepare for transitioning to their own room. And I just mentioned one piece of that, which was like walking through and storyboarding with your child to prepare them what that's going to look like and feel like. But any other quick little tidbits on that one?
Yeah, I would say, listeners, always get your toddlers and young children ready for sleep changes ahead of starting them. They're just like us. They do well with information ahead of time. And we like to see things in our calendar. We start to prepare for it. This also goes into a thing that all you parents are using, which are called transition cues, which essentially mean that you use scripts or information or routine to prepare your child for transition, for change. Transitions happen when you get your child ready in the morning and take them to school. Transitions happen when you end the day and you move into a bedtime routine and your child's resisting and they don't want to stop playing. Those happen across the day. I want to write a book called Transitions because they're such an integral part of the parenting muscle is transitions and getting our kids through them.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about back to school, and that's a transition. I mean, it's not just sleep, it's everything.
Everything. And frankly, like you can ask a lot of adults, will say transitions are tough for me too. Or these transitions in particular are tough for me. So this is a real basis of just being in a human body. It's an expression I use a lot in the parent coaching and sleep work that I do with parents. We are modeling for our children. It's not just getting them to sleep and woo, we did it. It's truly this experience we're having of modeling for our kids being in a human body. So when we think about sleep changes, my experience has been that kids do a lot better with sleep changes when they're prepped for it ahead of time, that they've been given these transition cues. That includes any number of these activities like hide and seek, chase, even chase and tag. With the older kiddos that are making sleep changes work really well. Some of the older kiddos will do some meditations or breathing. We even ask them to start, listeners, I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, and older kiddos in those age ranges. We'll ask them to start to think about what they want their bedtime routine to look like. So we start to help them develop some agency, that it's not being done to them, that they're a participant in how they want to help their body relax at the end of the day. So in terms of our toddlers, preparing them with the transition cues, writing a sleep book, reading it to them. And just remember this, if your toddler has feels about it, they say, I don't want to do this, or this is scary, I don't like this. They throw the sleep book when you're reading it to them. They throw their stuffy. It doesn't mean they're going to fail at sleep changes. All it means is that they're just like us. They don't like change very much. That's it.
Right. Yeah, perfectly normal. And like meeting their frustration and their emotions with calm, regulated emotions is our opportunity to show them that it's okay.
That's it. And that's, I think, part of the work is empowering us, all of us parents, we have those scripts, because when we see our kids have a meltdown, say, I can't do it. I'm scared. Don't leave me. Or I've got little ones that say, you don't love me if you don't sleep in my bed. Oh.
Yes, I know. Heartbreaking.
It is. So we're modeling, we're staying cool, calm, and collected, grounded. It's that firm and loving presence. Thank you for letting me know you're really having feelings about this, huh? We've really had some nice cuddles. It's been nice for me too. I've been enjoying cuddling with you at night. And now it is going to change. and we'll see each other in the morning. And even when I'm not cuddling you at night, my love is all around you. I love you. I'll be here for you to help you learn how to do this. We'll do it together. You got that, parents?
So good. So good. Yeah, I feel like you must have given this to me a long time ago, because one of the things we say before bed is, my love is always in your heart, even when I'm not in the room. So my kids hear that every night, and they've really taken that on. So it's just so valuable to reinforce all the time.
Yep. It is a crux of parenting. We're getting them ready to leave us, guys.
Yeah. Speaking of fear, so next question, what about fear of the dark?
Oh, this starts at around age 2 and on. A lot of parents think it's happening when their little ones are babies, because they'll start to have some developmental changes where they wake up crying at night, but it is not fear of the dark. Starting around age 2 and on, they're organizing fears and phobias, which essentially means that their imagination is just blossoming. It's so incredible. And the play stuff really amps up. They start to put all kinds of storylines together in their play. For a play therapist for kids, it's so much fun to watch them work it through playtime. They all do it. So the fears really start to derail sleep. And you're going to know this is happening because dramatically they'll have a regression at bedtime. From one night to the next, they get really fear-based, really scared. As you separate from them at bedtime, they resist. Like really big resist, screaming, don't leave, asking for the lights on. And that is your sure sign they've hit that developmental stage. How do we fix it? What they need is the door open at bedtime. You've probably been closing the door at bedtime, which is great to do with the baby and young toddler. But once those fears start to really creep in, they need to know that you can save them from the shadow that was a shadow before, but now is a dino or a rhino that's going to attack them. All of a sudden, those shadows in the room, that imagination's going and it's something different. So having the door open, hearing your voice out in the kitchen or nearby actually helps them feel safe. And that can take a couple days to a couple weeks. That 2-phase method that I just described, moving in closer, sitting at the door, that is not a bad thing. If your instinct, parents, is to move in closer when you see a dramatic regression at bedtime, follow it. And then after a couple days to a couple weeks, that fear is going to start to reduce. It's going to start to lessen. Keep a hall light on. And then you can start to move further away down the hall and further away, because now your child is over the hump, the peak of that big developmental phase, and they're starting to feel a little bit better. I recommend to parents, they keep the door open to their child's room as their child falls asleep at bedtime, and they keep a hall light on. Once the child is asleep, they can close the door and then have a night light in your child's room. I would recommend against overhead lights on at night in the child's room or a closet light on. There's good science showing that can actually hinder circadian rhythm organization. It's too much light. It turns out we need darkness at night for really good sleep. And so you do want to be sure that you're not turning on bright lights in your child's room because of their fear. It's actually better for you to move in closer and then fade away after a week or two.
Yeah. And the night light's going to be really just barely any light at all. So that's not going to be disruptive.
It's not disruptive. It's barely any light at all. Any night light will do. And sometimes at this point, I ask the child to pick out a night light.
Oh, yeah. They feel part of the process. So good.
That's right.
Okay. So then the next question, sleep clocks, baby gates, door monkeys, do they work and at what age?
Great question. Okay, so sleep clock. Listeners, on my website is a list of all of my favorite baby and toddler sleep products. I don't get anything back from these companies. I don't want to. I want you to have the names of those resources that are tried and true and I've used for over 2 decades. And you will see some of my favorite sleep clocks there. Sleep clocks start to work around the time your child's about 2.5 and on. And that's because they're organizing impulse control, which means that you can say when the light is red, your legs stay in bed. And when the light is green, then your legs get out of bed and we'll be together again. We'll go and play.
Yeah. And this is a little clock that changes color. You program it and it'll change the color so the kids can know when it's okay to get up.
The most popular one right now is one that the design is for an adult. It's like a sleek orb. My experience has been that parents like it because it's app enabled, so they could use their phone to program it, but the kids don't necessarily like it. They like the more toy-based one. Again, on my website, angeliquemillette.com, you'll see a list of all the different ones that I use in my practice. And the ones that are toy-based, I find work a lot better for young toddlers. And you can use these from age 2.5 to age 5 or 6. They're very effective. I even have parents using them for their 7, 8-year-olds. They're so effective. And you turn the light to red when it's bedtime, and then turn the light to green when it's wake up time or get out of bedtime. You can use that in combination with something like a door monkey. So door monkey is an adjustable lock that keeps your child's door open about, let's say, 4 to 6 inches. They can't leave their room, but they can still hear you or see the hall light on from their room. So this is for a kiddo that's getting out of bed at bedtime and through the night, that is having a little bit of separation anxiety at sleep time, meaning that when you leave, they get really upset. This allows you to be in the hallway. They can hear your voice. They're not locked in the room alone. There's still a little bit of 4 to 6 inches of the door partially open. And so the separation anxiety is not so bad. A lot of those kids that use something like a door monkey or baby gate, they'll get out of bed and sleep close to the door. It means that they're just at an age where they're having some separation anxiety at your leaving at sleep time, and they're probably newly out of the crib. This is for our 2 to 3-year-olds that have just transitioned out of the crib. Their new bed, or even the transitional toddler bed, will feel very big to them suddenly. They actually feel much more secure sleeping on the floor or sleeping close to the door.
What can someone do for that because that doesn't sound very comfortable. And it also probably speaks to them wanting to be close to you, right? They're doing everything that they're capable of because they're basically locked in there to get close to their parent.
That's right. And this is for a kiddo that wanders at night. We've had little ones that are wandering around the house. They've gone out the back door, gone in the garage, gone out.
Oh, like sleepwalking? So this is just for sleepwalking.
This is not just for sleepwalking. This is for kids that get out of bed at bedtime or through the night. They might just go to their parents' room, or they might go somewhere in the house where, frankly, it's just not safe. So this ensures that the child doesn't get out of the room, but also ensures that there's a limit. They stay in the room and they're not coming out to the parents' room through the night. So it can't be used for sleepwalking, but it's mostly for a toddler that's still organizing impulse control, or they're getting out of bed at night. I don't just introduce a door monkey or a baby gate without first introducing some prep activities like those play activities that we talked about earlier in the podcast. It's such an important point, listeners. You don't want to just throw a lock on a child's door. They're going to scream for hours. It's going to be a really big adjustment for them. I frankly don't like that. I want to prepare a child for that kind of limit setting.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd like my door to be locked on me. So I can understand that.
That's right. Question. I'm not concerned about a child sleeping on the floor when they make that transition out of the crib. And I ask parents to put like a cozy plush blanket, some pillows on the floor. So when they migrate down there, they have a cozy spot to sleep. It's totally temporary. It's a couple weeks to a couple months. And then they move through that stage, and then they want to stay in their bed. So it's strictly about that transition out of the crib for a 2 to 3-year-old toddler that's trying to find some security, which turns out the floor becomes a secure, safe place for them to sleep during that transition. It will go away. For us parents that are looking at our kids' nice bed and nice mattress and thinking, why aren't you sleeping in there? You can certainly pick them up and put them back in a bed. They're going to just crawl back to the floor and sleep there at some point during the night.
Okay. And then, so how do we know when to start nighttime potty learning?
This is a great question. So typically daytime happens first. Not always, but typically they're mastering daytime potty learning, and that's anywhere between 18 months to 4 years of age. The reason that I wanted to talk about the nighttime potty learning is because you're going to set yourselves up for success with the nighttime potty learning with a few simple, basic first steps. You want to start to pay attention to how much liquid your toddler consumes in the hours before bedtime. And one of the things that I see a lot of in my practice is that little ones are not hydrating much during the day. They're so focused on playtime and preschool and their routines and activities that by 5 p.m., they're guzzling water from 5 to bedtime. Guzzling. And then making multiple requests for more water or milk. By the time lights go out, they've had somewhere between 10 to 15 ounces of milk and water.
Right, between dinner and then right before bed.
That's exactly right. And their bladders are so little, tiny little bladders. They're not going to be successful with any nighttime potty learning until you start to limit the guzzling and the liquid intake. This is not something you do if they're sick or if you're traveling or if there's a heat wave. That aside, you want to start to limit to just 5 ounces max of milk, water, or tea, whatever their beverage of choice is, 5 ounces max from dinner time to lights out. And then you can substitute with like fruits or vegetables, like an apple or some carrots, something that is a little hydrating, but it's not guzzling, right, parents? Because otherwise, the guzzling means they're simply not going to be successful holding their bladder at night, or you're going to be up multiple times at night getting them to the potty, which short term you can do. Long term, getting up multiple times at night, getting a kid to the potty is fixable by limiting that liquid intake. So that's your first thing, is just to track some of that data for a week or two, just to see how much intake they're getting, and then work your way down and substitute the liquid for, say, fruits or vegetable snack that's a little hydrating but it's not guzzling. Now you want to pay attention to their pull-up or diaper, overnight diaper. And this could be your as early as 2, but for a lot of 3 to 5-year-olds, they're starting to show signs of readiness for this. If they're starting to have semi-wet or even dry pull-ups or diapers at night, as you've reduced or limited their liquid intake in the hours before bedtime, bingo, you're on track now for transitioning out of the pull-ups or diapers at night. And now practicing with having them go the night without using a pull-up or a diaper.
And I have a tip here, which is you can go online and get one of those washable, reusable pads, put it on top of the sheet, unless you want to wash sheets every night for a month, which I don't think you do. And then that way, if there is an accident, which there will be, of course, and that's another thing, like you could reinforce it's okay to have accidents, so it's not a real emotional thing. And then you just wash the pad and then this, whatever else, the stuffy in the pajama, and it makes it it'll make your life so much easier.
So much easier. I ask parents, lean into some of those accidents that are going to happen. And it's actually really good, a muscle for your child to learn that accidents happen and to move on. It gives them some resiliency through it. So potty learning is a process, but it's great. Those pads work really well. Now, one little extra tip here, you can do what's called a scheduled lifting. A scheduled lifting means you basically pull your child up from their bed right before you go to bed, say 10 or 11 o'clock at night. You get them out of bed, walk them to the potty, put them on the potty so they have a little pee before you go to sleep. And the benefit of doing that is that if they're still working hard to hold their bladders at night, it does help with getting a little pee out so that your sleep hours aren't interrupted. And then when they wake up at 6 or 7, then they have their big morning pee. But then you're both getting uninterrupted sleep through the night. So that's called a scheduled lifting. And it basically means you're lifting them out of bed, walking them to the toilet at night so that they can use the toilet. They can use it right before you go to bed. It's like a scheduled dream feed for babies. It's the same concept.
Yes. Yeah. And it works well. I can attest. Okay, cool. So our next question is about nightmares or night terrors or nighttime tantrums. So what's going on there?
Okay, this is really such an important distinction. Night terrors are a sleeping disorder. I would say that the rate of their occurrence, it just depends on whose study you're looking at. It could be between 5 to 40%. And in my practice, I probably see 5 to 10%. There's usually a family history, but not always. They usually start around age 2 and on, sometimes even closer to age 3. And they're only going to happen in the 2 to 3 hours after bedtime. It is a sleep disorder. So sleep disorder basically means that they go to sleep at bedtime and then they have a night terror 2 to 3 hours as they transition from that deep sleep cycle to a lighter sleep cycle. They get stuck in between the sleep cycle. They are effectively asleep, even though their eyes are open and they're screaming and they look like they're having a huge tantrum. They're in fact asleep.
Oh, so it's like sleepwalking, but they're having a scary dream.
They are not even having a dream. They're stuck in between sleep cycles. It's really, parents will say when they see it happen, it looks like their child's possessed. That's probably why parents think their child's having a nightmare, but they're stuck in between sleep cycles. They don't even know they're having it. And furthermore, they can actually be quite violent as they're having it. Parents will report that their child hit them or kicked them, pushed them, and they don't know that they're doing that either.
And this is pretty unusual. You said it's only in a small percentage. Yeah.
It's It's a small percentage. It's only going to happen 2 to 3 hours after bedtime, Sarah. So parents, as you're listening in and you're wondering if your child's screaming at night is a night terror tantrum, if it happens 2 to 3 hours after bedtime, it's a night terror. And they're stuck in between sleep cycles. And what you want to do is, the old suggestion was to put them in the shower and wake them up. Don't do that.
Has anyone seen Step Brothers? Come on.
So funny.
Don't wake them up.
Do not wake them up. And it's just going to work itself out 5, 10, 15 minutes. And then they're going to go back to sleep. And you can say their name and you can stay close, but try to protect yourself. If they hit you, they don't mean to. This is sleep disorder.
Yeah. They're in another dimension. They're not even there.
They're not even there. That's exactly right. So they don't remember it happened. They don't know it happened. It doesn't hurt them. I tend to see occurrences of this when a child is not getting enough sleep. So I say to parents, if you're seeing them creep in and they're starting to have them, make sure they go to bed earlier at night. Or you might see them right when they drop a nap. We see them start.
So it can be a phase. It can be a phase and they can get more sleep and grow out of it. Or if they are having it, just be there. Don't wake them up, but just be there and let them put themselves back into the sleep cycle. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's it. So the difference between that and a nighttime tantrum is a nighttime tantrum is behavioral. I see a lot of nighttime tantrums because I work with a lot of kids that don't know how to go to sleep at bedtime. Their parents stay with them to help them go to sleep, and then their parents leave right after they fall asleep. So then the toddler wakes up during the night, the parent's not there, and they have a big tantrum. They have a big fit because the parent's not there when they wake up. And then the parent has to repeat the process, go back and lay with them. Then the child goes to sleep, and they sneak out again. And then they wake up later, have another tantrum or fit. The parents has to sneak back in, stay with them, then sneak out again. That is a lot of what I do in my practice are those nighttime tantrums. They go away by using that 2-phase approach we were talking about, with the goal being that your child now learns to go to sleep without needing you physically there. It's a really big milestone. They feel safe in their body. They can let go of you and hold the feeling of you as a resource for security. And then when they wake up at night, you're going to do the same method in the middle of the night, fade away your presence so they learn to go back to sleep without needing you there and you sneaking out. You're going to use that fade away method. And now they're going to be able to link up their sleep cycles and those nighttime tantrums go away. Nighttime tantrums are different than the nighttime terrors because they can happen any time of the night. Any time of the night. And you'll see them at a clip of every few hours or so as the sleep cycles are ending and the next one's starting.
And do those go away?
They go away with the 2-phase approach by doing a good behavioral sleep method for kids. The final one are the nightmares, and those usually happen later in the night. And those really kick in age 2, 3, and on. We start to really see nightmares peak.
So then what's going on there? In my experience, it'll just be like an occasional scary dream, which just seems like a normal thing. We all have good, bad, not so good dreams over the course of a number of nights of sleep. So that kind of makes sense that little kids have them too. I find that it happens more if like my kid watches something that they're not ready for, or they hear a scary story or a scary book. Even like Winnie the Pooh could be too scary. It doesn't, like, they just interpret something as being scary.
Halloween, we see so many kids having nightmares.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's too much gore, so much scary stuff that they'll see. Or like just unusual things even.
Unusual. That's right. Things that they would never see. That's exactly right, Sarah. So those nightmares, I recommend to parents that they respond to their child when they have a nightmare with just a quick little tuck back in bed and then leave the room.
Yep. We say some words. We say, I'm safe in my house and I'm safe in my room and monsters are just pretend, or whatever it is, right? Fill in the blank. And I have a great imagination and I am safe. And that's that.
And listeners, don't use monster spray.
Oh, yeah. That makes them think it's real.
Because that's right. That means there are monsters. It sounds harmless and innocent. I totally get it as a mom, but in fact, it does the opposite. So I just level the playing field. I just say to them, monsters aren't real, or whatever that scary thing is. And our heads are really good at making up stories like that. Can you believe that your brain is doing that? And then in the morning, we have some fun. I always like to put out, because I'm an art therapist for kiddos, I like to put out blank paper and crayons or markers, and we draw the monsters. We draw the scary things. And now you're going to see some vicious stuff come out of your child. Like, wow, that's what you were thinking about last night? Let me look at that thing. And then we hang it up because now they control it. It's theirs. We might give it a name. We might talk to it during the day when we see that picture. And again, folks, I'm a play therapist and an art therapist. So I really use those mediums to help kids work this stuff out. And then those nightmares go away.
Yeah, you have to name it. You have to name it and say it and see what it is and not pretend that it's not there. Yeah.
That's right. There's big developmental changes where their psyches are really building up constructs for understanding the scary stuff. And we have them draw it out, and then that helps get it out too. Fun stuff, huh?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're on our question 10. So final question. So I call them night gummies, and I know what my dentist certainly has to say about those, which is no gummies ever. That aside, the little vitamins that have melatonin in them for helping support sleep at night, is that safe? Is that okay to use with a toddler?
I'm glad we're talking about melatonin. As a mom myself, just full disclosure, I have used it with my daughter for finite periods of time. And what's concerning to me as a pediatric sleep consultant for 25 years now is the uptick in parents using melatonin as a permanent means of a sleep solution for their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and older children. It's simply not safe. Furthermore, and here I am preaching, folks, but this is a temporary fix that we're going to use it for, and then we use a good behavioral sleep method to get sleep on track.
Right. So it's okay on occasion. Say you're traveling and you just need, I feel like that's like when I use that, I'm like, oh, we're camping and you're like really riled.
That's it. Or kiddos starting school, having some anxiety the first few weeks of school. And they're having a hard time making that adjustment. And they need their sleep. So use a little bit and then offer half the gummy, a quarter of the gummy. And then after a week or two, you want to be off the gummies. This is a fade away, temporary solution. And we really buffer it with some good behavioral support for your child.
Yeah. I feel like it's also just a candy grab too. Like they think of them as, oh, a treat. So I want some candy or something sweet.
Exactly. They're delicious. The way they package them now, they don't have testing that's done on most of these brands. There's only one brand that's really testing the efficacy and the dosage for kids, the Natrol brand. So parents, again, this is not a permanent solution. It's temporary. If you're using it longer than a couple weeks, you want to really take a step back. I'm seeing kids taking up to 5 milligrams of melatonin in 2-year-olds at bedtime, it's like a heroic dose of melatonin. That is not safe whatsoever. So I'm not here to prescribe or suggest melatonin. I'm just asking parents to really have an honest assessment of how they're using it and really lean into a behavioral sleep method for your child's sleep. It's a much better way to solve the issue. It's a long-term solution.
Yep. Love it. Okay. Thank you for the top 10 questions and answers. That was just a goldmine of wisdom that we walked through here today. I also want to mention that Angelique, you mentioned your website, which is angeliquemillette.com. You get an exclusive 10% discount on a 60-minute consultation with Angelique, plus all of her webinars, which are on demand for those of you that need to just maybe watch these after your kids go to bed. So you could use a discount code called Fourth Try 10. So the number 4, THTRI 10, Fourth Try 10. And yeah, check out her site, check out all she has to offer. I highly recommend it. Angelique, thank you so much for being on the program. Do you have any final words you want to share with our listeners?
Oh, just enjoy those kiddos. They're so much fun. And I will add, if you are doing some bed sharing and co-sleeping, enjoy that too. There's always a solution and a fix for it. Your final thing that you're looking at is, how is this working for our family? Is this sleep set up? Am I getting my sleep needs met? Is my child getting their sleep needs met? And then work from that point. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angelique. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye, listeners. Thanks so much.
You can subscribe to this podcast in order to hear more from us. Thank you for listening, everyone, and I hope you'll join us next time on the Fourth Trimester. The theme music on this podcast was created by Sean Trott. Hear more at soundcloud.com/Sean Trott. Special thanks to my true loves, my husband Ben, daughter Penelope, and baby girl Evelyn. Don't forget to share the Fourth Trimester podcast with any new and expecting parents. I'm Sarah Trott. Goodbye for now.
Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing all that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I'll sing a song for you. You got your wheels, you got your gears. You ride around town without any fear. You got your pedals, you got your brakes. You always wear your helmet for safety's sake. Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing all that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I sing a song for you. Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing the best that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I sing a song for you.